Hi everyone, welcome to the short video. Just going through some of my favorite Excel shortcuts. So some of them you'll find in this document, some of them aren't here, but I use them regularly, so let's take a look. So I've divided this into both general shortcuts and what I call editing shortcuts. So going into the general shortcuts, so we've got Control Shift 1 to 6. I use this every single day, every single time I'm in Excel. So it's Control Shift 1, Control Shift 2, Control Shift 3, which would format to numbers of date, Control Shift 4. If you have a look above the 4, you'll see the dollar sign on your keyboard, so that's formatted as a currency. Type of currency, depending on what regional settings you have for your computer. So that might be a dollar if you're based in the United States. Control Shift 5, formatted as a percentage. Again, you can see that. Control Shift 6. Control Shift 7 adds a single border around the cell. So not the double thick border, but the single border. And that's just a formatting shortcut. So those are some really useful formatting shortcuts, just to quickly flip through the different types of formatting and the most commonly used formatting for numbers in cells. Control page up and page down. So I use that instead of my mouse. The whole point of shortcuts is that you don't use your mouse, that you become comfortable with using your keyboard to navigate Excel. So Control page up and page down is to scroll through the different worksheets or different tabs in your Excel workbook, so you don't use the mouse to do that. Control Spacebar selects the entire column. So if you've currently selected C7 for an example, then Control Spacebar selects the entire column, which would be column C. If you're in the same cell and you click Shift Spacebar selects the entire row, so that would select the entire row 7. Moving down, Alt and the down arrow, that accesses a data validated drop down box. So if you've used data validation in that cell and you've got a list that you can select items from, then you can use Alt and the down arrow to actually access that menu. Alt is to access the tabs. So what do I mean by that? So at the top of your Excel workbook, you'll see the different tabs: Home, Insert, Page, Layout, Formulas, etc. And if you press Alt, then that actually allows you to use the keyboard to access all of the different functionality. So have a look at that. I'll actually do it here. So if I go into my Excel and I press Alt, you can actually see there that you might not be able to see it based on the way that the video is cut, but it puts little letters next to each tab. Now let's say, for example, I click on the Formulas tab, so I type M, now it goes into the Formulas tab, and now it gives me more options depending on what I actually want to go and select. So let's say I want to go and look at recently used formulas. I would click R, and then I can use the keyboard up and down arrows to navigate that, or I can click F to insert a function. Press Escape, it goes back a level, Escape goes back a level more. Let's say I pressed Alt A to go into data. Then, for example, you can see here I can go and refresh all queries. If I wanted to actually go to data validation, it would be V. Going back again, if I press Alt again, I can go R for review, and then E, and that in fact opens up the thesaurus for the cell I've currently selected, which opened up to the right hand side. So Alt, very useful as well. And it's really key that you use Alt if you really want to throw your mouse away and become comfortable in using your keyboard in Excel. Now, why do I keep on going on about that? Well, I really think that using your keyboard in Excel, you can be much quicker than using your mouse. And these shortcuts are the way in which you can use your keyboard. So Control Shift Plus, that adds a column or a row, depending on where you are in the Excel workbook. Alt WVG adds or removes grid lines. So as you can see, there are no grid lines in this workbook, so I've removed the grid lines. Alt F1 inserts a chart based on the data that you've currently selected. Quick way to insert a chart, just to visualize your data quickly. Select the data, Alt F1, and it will insert a chart and selects the best chart that it thinks would be appropriate for the data that's currently selected. Control Shift and then left or right arrow. That selects the cells to the left or to the right. And then Control Shift up and down arrow selects the cells up or down. If you just go Control up or down, Control left or right, that then takes you to the last used cell on the right or left, or above or down. Control A selects the immediately used cells or range. A lot of people get confused by this. I think Control A selects the entire worksheet. It doesn't. It will first select the immediately used range, which basically are the used cells around the cell that you currently selected. And if you press it again, then it selects the entire worksheet. Control K inserts a hyperlink, and Control. So now if you have a look below your escape key on your keyboard, on the top left hand side, we call that tilde. So Control tilde switches between displaying values or formulas. Also a very useful shortcut key. And I'm going to, after we've gone through all the shortcuts, I'm actually going to have an Excel workbook up, and we're going to go through some of my favorite shortcuts. Okay, onto the editing shortcuts. So Alt-HJ accesses cell styles. I've actually set this as one of my most commonly used shortcuts, which you can do as well. I'm going to show you how to do that. So for me, all I do is Alt-5 and then accesses cell styles. Control-B bolds a cell, Control-I italic, Control-C copy, Control-V paste, commonly used ones, most people know those. If you've copied a cell, Alt-ESV, then paste it as values. Alt-ES accesses the paste as special menu. I'm going to see that just now as well. Control-R, fill to the right. Control-D, I love those shortcuts. Control-Z undo, Control-Y redo. Control-9 hides a row. Control-0 hides a column. So quite useful as well. F2 accesses edit mode. So if you're in a cell and you want to edit the formula, you can press F2 and then you can go and edit the formula. F4 in edit mode, it cycles through the absolute referencing of cells. So when you see the dollar before either the column or number, you know that either the column or the row number is being absolute referenced and won't move when you drag that formula down, up, down, to the left, right. So F4, if you click on a cell and press F4, it cycles through that. We're going to see that just now as well. F5 accesses the go-to menu, and F7 does your spell check. So those are just some of my most commonly used shortcuts, ones I like, so that's why I compiled them, put them together in this download, which you can download from this page. Now let's have a look at some of those in action. Right, so as I said, so some of these shortcuts in action. So let's say I type a number into that cell, Control-Shift-1. You can see it's now formatted nicely, thousands separated formatting with 2 decimal places. Control-Shift-2 formatted as a time. Control-Shift-3 formatted as a date. Control-Shift-4 formatted as a currency. I'm in South Africa, so that's why I've got an R for South African rands before my number. Control-Shift-5 formatted as a percentage. Control-Shift-6 is the scientific number, and Control-Shift-7 adds that border around the cell. So I really love those. Moving on to see some of my other shortcuts. If I go equals and then D4, so if I press enter, it gives me the value or the answer to that formula. If I want to go and edit that formula, F2, and now I can edit the formula. F4, as I said, cycles through the different types of absolutes referencing. So clicking F for that there. Now let's go and copy this. If I go and Control V, it's just going to paste the formula. Let's say I want to paste the value. I can actually go Alt, E, S, and now it's brought up my paste special dialog box. And if I press V, then what you can see is it actually goes and pastes the values. So now I've got a value in that cell. So Control C, Alt E S accesses the paste special. It's quite useful to play around with that as well. And those are just some of my most commonly used formulas. If, for example, I wanted to copy that down, I could go Control D, copies it down. If I want to copy it to the right, Control R copies that to the right. So those are ones I can think of at the moment. I might post another video as I think about some more shortcuts that I just commonly use. But if you want to become really quick in Excel, then I really suggest you don't use your mouse. You really try and use your keyboard. You force yourself, you learn some of the shortcuts, and you don't have the mouse there to help you. So you're going to have to use the shortcut or press Alt and go through the menu tabs. But it's really something that will speed you up in Excel and just really help you through your Excel work. Thanks very much for watching the video. Don't forget to download the Excel shortcuts file, which you can do by typing in your email address, clicking download. If you're interested in more financial modeling news, tips and tricks, then please subscribe to the newsletter, and I'll see you in the next financial modeling podcast episode.